Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Monday, the 3rd of July. Good to have you aboard. We are a Blue Wire podcast presented as always by Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys. 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. If you're involved in any kind of an accident, if you're dealing with an injury, I send you to the title sponsor of ZASLOW Show 2.0. The only accident attorneys, not only the best, but the ones that are going to treat you like family. Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. We got a big show today. Could today be a big news day? We had a big news weekend. Last time that we talked, obviously on Friday morning-ish, NBA free agency officially started that evening. You had a flurry of moves, a flurry of signings, and then, of course, you had the big news that took place over the weekend, and the Miami Heat are center stage, of course, because the center of the sports world, best sports town, is obviously South Florida, is obviously Miami, and all eyes are on the Miami Heat and Damian Lillard. So look, by the time you're listening to today's edition of ZASLOW Show 2.0, you're listening to the future. You may have information I don't. Maybe Damian Lillard's already on the Heat. Well, as of right now, he is not yet. Right now, that is not the case. Apparently, the Portland Trail Blazers, they're being a bunch of bitches, and they're not allowing this deal to go by smooth. We'll see what happens. We'll see if that changes. Damian Lillard can certainly make a mess of this whole situation. We'll see what winds up happening. So, like I said, if you're listening right now, you're in the future, maybe you got some more information than I do right now, but this is what's happening at the moment. So we're going to recap kind of the weekend. We're going to go over a lot of NBA stuff. Oh my God, the money. I know I've said this before. The NFL player must make the NFL player crazy when they see all the money that is being thrown around. I mean, for instance, just take Fred VanVleet, for instance. Signed for 3 years, $120 some odd million. Over $40 million per year. Fred VanVleet's a nice player. But you go look at the equivalent of Fred VanVleet in the NFL. A sport, by the way, the NFL, that makes a lot more revenue, a lot more money than the NBA. You go look up the equivalent of Fred VanVleet, and you see how much money that guy is making. You go look at, you know what? Do it this way. Look up who's making more money in the NFL than Fred VanVleet is. If you want to go on a per year basis, the answer might be 0. And if you go on a total guaranteed money basis, holy shit, that's a short list. It must make the NFL player crazy when they see the money that is being thrown out there by the NBA. So, we're going to talk to Pacific guy. George Sedano is going to join the show today from out there in Los Angeles. I know the Lakers, they're getting a lot of buzz. I don't care, all right? I think it's a little bit of overreaction as far as what the Lakers have done. They had a nice weekend. Let's not all get crazy. But we're going to talk to him about the Heat, Damian Lillard, a little bit other free agency stuff. So, Pacific guy, George Sedano, ESPN, he's going to join us coming up. We'll talk to him, of course. So, over the weekend, I went to, so Friday night goes down. Let's go over that first. So, Friday night goes down, and so 6 o'clock hits, and now you got the moves are happening. And I told you, we're going to lose Max Strus. We're also going to try our best to keep Gabe Vincent. We wind up losing them both. By the way, rather quick. So, we lose Max Strus and Gabe Vincent very shortly into free agency. And now, everyone's upset. Everyone's getting upset. And it was exhausting for me because I can't keep explaining. I'm trying to do it on ZASLOW Show 2.0 here, the days leading up to Friday. And I'm trying to remind you, because it's so easy to say, Mickey Harrison is cheap. Mickey Harrison doesn't want to spend the money that the Cavaliers just gave Max Strus. He doesn't want to spend the money that the Lakers just gave Gabe Vincent. And you know what? That might be true. But That's not the story here. The story is the Heat don't want to match those contracts. Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, we've seen in recent years the Heat giving the big contracts to players who essentially resurrected their careers, right? Or came from nothing, and now the Heat build them. Guys like Duncan Robinson, guys like Tyler Johnson, Hassan Whiteside, and then you got the reclamation projects, guys like Dion Waiters, guys like James Johnson. And so it's, hey, maybe the Heat are going to learn their lesson, and they're not going to give out those contracts anymore, because guys like Strus and Vincent, you got to find the value. I've been telling you this. You got to find the value when it comes to the salary cap. And those guys were tremendous value. When you're starting to pay Max Strus $16 million a year, when you're starting to pay Gabe Vincent $11 million a year, you're not getting the value anymore. So that's part of why the Heat didn't want to pay them. But then the other side of it is, and I've been telling you guys this, it's so easy just to scream, Mickey Harrison, he doesn't want to spend the money. Okay, but you're also letting everybody know, and I've been trying to warn you without getting into all the details, if that's the only stance you have, if that's the only thing you're shouting from the rooftop, is that the owner is cheap, which, by the way, 4 of the past 5 seasons, the Miami Heat are in the top 10 in the league in payroll. 4 of the last 5 years, this past year I think they were 13th. 4 of the past 5 years, the Heat are top 10 in payroll. So yeah, keep screaming that the Heat are cheap. It's real easy to do that, and you're also letting everybody know, and that's okay because this new CBA, there's a lot happening here, and it sucks. But that's also letting everyone know, I have no idea what I'm talking about. When all you're doing is screaming about Mickey Harrison being cheap, you're also just waving the flag, letting everyone know, I have no idea how any of this works. So I'm going to scream that the owner must be cheap. You know what it's like? It's like when your favorite team, whatever, Heat, Dolphins, it's like when your favorite team loses. You don't know why they lost. So the coach got out-coached. He didn't make the adjustments. It's such an easy thing to say, and you're also letting everybody know you got no clue what's happening. And that's the same thing here. If you're screaming about the owner being cheap, you don't have a clue. You have no idea what's happening. And without getting into all the minutia, first apron, second apron, the penalties that incur when you spend, nothing is stopping a team from spending money. Unless you get hard capped. You get hard capped when you do a sign and trade. Then you are actually being prevented from spending money. But outside that, nothing is preventing these teams from spending money. Spend $1 billion on your payroll if you want. But once you get to a certain point, that first apron and then the second apron as well, there are certain moves you are not allowed to make anymore. And I'm just going to give you one example because, like I said, I'm exhausted trying to tell you guys this, that it's not about the money, that it's not about being cheap. It's about flexibility and being able to sign players. Someone says to me, Mickey Harrison can spend all the money we want. I got a tweet over the weekend. ZASLOW, if you get an offer when you were on the radio, if you get an offer from ESPN, your radio station is allowed to match it. Nobody's stopping them from spending it. Okay, here's the thing. In real life, if I were to leave the radio station for ESPN for a lot more money, does my radio station, if they match that contract, are they then not allowed to sign other hosts? Are they then capped out where they are not allowed to offer other hosts X amount of dollars? Do they get penalized by matching my contract and bringing me back for more money? Are there other hires? Is there a hiring freeze? Are they not allowed to hire this person or this person or this person? No? Oh, right, because that's real life. And in the NBA with this CBA, that's the kind of stuff that happens. If the Heat were to match the Max Strus deal and or the Gabe Vincent deal, it puts you above X amount of dollars where you're not allowed to use this exception to sign this player. You're not allowed to use this exception to sign this player. So stop with the, yeah, you can always spend more money. ZASLOW, and if another job offers you X, your employer's allowed to match it. It's not real life. There aren't penalties in real life when you want to hire other people. Stop with the real life comparisons. It's not the same thing. And just as one example, right? Because I'm not going to go into all of it, also because I don't have it in front of me. But here's an example of some of the new rules with this CBA. If you pass one of the aprons, I think it's the second one. If you pass the second apron, which the Heat right now are super close to, if you pass the second apron 3 out of 5 years, you lose your first round pick. What? Yeah, I'm not making that up. If you are above the apron, the second apron, I believe it is, in 3 of 5 years, you lose your first round pick to the bottom of the first round. If you finish that year in that third time that you were above the apron, the third time in the 5 years, let's say it's 3 straight years, that third year, your first round pick would have been, let's say, 18, like this year's Miami Heat. That pick then drops out of the first round. You now have the last pick or first pick of the second round, however you want to look at it. You now have the last pick of the first round. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. If you're over that apron 3 out of 5 years, your first round pick gets moved to the end of the first round. Does that have anything to do with the owner being cheap? Is that a money thing? No. That's what I've been trying to tell you. That's the kind of stuff I've been trying to get across to you. But you keep screaming that Mickey Harrison's cheap. And you're just letting everybody know you don't know what's going on. You don't understand what's happening here. So I'm trying to tell you. Anyway, so where was I? Let's start again. So Friday night happens. They lose Strus. I was bummed that they lost Gabe Vincent. I really was. I think it's a great signing for the Lakers. And I've told you this, where if the Heat lose Strus and Vincent, if we go and we're playing a dangerous game waiting for Damian Lillard, right? If the Heat lose Strus and they lose Vincent, you're not a championship club anymore. You're not a championship contender anymore because this Heat team has been about the sum of its parts. We know the contributions that Strus and Vincent made to this team, not just throughout the year, but especially in the postseason. So I understand the Heat fans' frustration where last year the team did nothing, literally. Didn't add anybody. And now they haven't done anything yet, and they lost Strus and Vincent, 2 starters in the NBA Finals for us. Now, of course, we all know they're in a holding pattern waiting for Lillard. But we're looking at it in a vacuum. They just lost Strus and Vincent, and so we're upset about it. And then as the night goes on, the Heat add Thomas Bryant, really good backup big, great signing. But then the one that really makes you feel good, or at least for me, is Josh Richardson. And you know I'm a sucker for nostalgia. That's why I love the Flash movie. Michael Keaton, Batman, I love that kind of shit. I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I love when we bring back past players. You know, remember when we brought back Eddie Jones, and I think it was 2007, didn't work out, but I love, one year we brought back Steve Smith. I love when we bring back players. They're bringing back Josh Richardson at 28 years old. They're bringing back Josh Richardson in what is his prime. Now, you look at the numbers, he hasn't been Josh Richardson the last few years since leaving the Heat, which, oh, by the way, always seems to be the case with these guys. They're great with the Heat, these undrafted development guys, and then they go somewhere else, and it's like, yeah, not the same. So that's kind of been the case with Josh Richardson. But I love the nostalgia. I love the Josh Richardson pickup. And let's be honest for a second here. You could probably make the case. Josh Richardson is an upgrade over Gabe Vincent. Yeah, you can make that case. Richardson is 6'5", 6'6". He's a big guard. He's a lot bigger than Vincent. He's a much better defender than Vincent. And Vincent's a good defender. Much better defender than Vincent. Much better three-point shooter as well. Richardson was 37% this year. Gabe Vincent was not. And Richardson this year averaged 10 points a game as like a role player for San Antonio and New Orleans. Gabe Vincent averaged 9 points a game this year, if you want to do it like that. Like, I don't know that Josh Richardson is not an upgrade over Gabe Vincent. And Richardson at the minimum compared to Vincent, who's now getting $11 million a year. So what winds up happening is, I'm upset about Strus. I'm upset about about Vincent. And then I wake up Saturday morning, I'm like, you know what? I think the Heat had a really good day. I think the Heat did really well. They didn't overpay for guys. They didn't repeat their past mistakes of overpaying these players. And they add Richardson, who I'm making the case is better than Vincent. They add Thomas Bryant, who's a very good backup center. And you can make the case, okay, Robinson is going to replace Strus. You can't have Robinson and Strus making money on the team. Robinson is going to replace Strus. I think we all really liked the postseason Duncan Robinson had. So Robinson's going to replace Strus. I think Richardson's better than Gabe Vincent. And we didn't spend any kind of stupid money. I think the Heat did a really good job on Friday night. After I settled down, after everything, you calm down, you evaluate, you take a look at the situation. Now, I do want to say, and I tweeted this out on Friday night after we lost Strus and Vincent. There's something wrong with a system that doesn't allow you to keep the players you've developed. And then you get those, they are allowed to, you got to spend the money. I just told you there are penalties when you spend the money. That's what we're talking about here. Yes, they could spend the money, but you're getting penalized for doing that. And the point is, there is something wrong with a system that doesn't allow you to keep the players you've developed. That's the key there for me, is the guys you developed. I understand having to pay a tax on players that you roster from free agency or from trades, guys who weren't your guys. But should you be penalized for players that you want to re-sign who either A, you drafted, or B, you brought on your team undrafted rookies? Should you be penalized for developing those guys and then wanting to keep them? I absolutely understand taxing teams for players acquired in trade, players acquired in free agency. But guys who you drafted and you developed, should you be penalized for spending to keep those guys? I don't think so. I think there's something wrong with that. And what ends up happening is a team like Miami that is great at player development. Why do the Heat have to act as a farm system for these other teams? Cleveland is going to benefit from the player development of Max Strus. The Lakers are going to benefit from the player development of Gabe Vincent. Why are the Heat penalized for developing their own, for being great at player development? Why do they have to be used as a farm system? Like, there's something wrong with that. To me, there's something wrong with that. So that was my initial feeling on Friday when we lost those guys. Then I thought about Richardson, even Thomas Bryant. Okay, Robinson's going to replace this. Strus, we're going to get Tyler Hero back. It's like, you know what? The Heat actually were very smart on Friday night. The Heat actually did a really good job on Friday night after thinking about it, after absorbing the whole thing. Before we continue on here, guys, I've been telling you for a while now, and it's summertime. Oh my God, the rain. If you notice there's a leak in your home, you got to take care of that immediately. I'm talking about Water Cleanup of Florida. Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-900-8635. My boys, the Greensteins, family friends. I've known them since I'm a teenager. They have over 60 years of combined experience. Their team at Water Cleanup of Florida handles all types of leak detection issues 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And after the leak is located and repaired, Water Cleanup of Florida, they then clean, dry, and fully restore the damaged areas. They're fully licensed, insured, and Water Cleanup of Florida is certified to provide the one-stop shopping that all busy homeowners and business owners require. They serve the entire Tri-County area, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties, Call or text Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-900-8635, or go to WCUFL.com. Water Cleanup of Florida, we clean up your schmutz. Also, before we get to, I want to get to some NBA, some NBA. So much money was spent. There's so much out there. So here's what happened, right? On Saturday, I'm at Florida SuperCon with my son, my younger son, Jordan. He's really into that kind of stuff, and I like taking him. So I'm at Florida SuperCon on Saturday. My son's actually participating in a Super Mario Kart tournament. He's really good at Super Mario Kart. So we're waiting around. The tournament's about to start. And then here we go. You get the tweets out. Damian Lillard, Chris Haynes first, because he's really in the camp of Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has requested a trade from Portland. That happened a bit sooner than I thought it was going to, but here's the thing, right? What else was Portland going to do? Because once Draymond Green, who I think was like the first guy to sign on Friday night, once Draymond Green re-upped with Golden State, that was it. It was on at that point. There's nothing else that Portland can realistically do where Damian Lillard's going to say, all right, I'm staying. That was probably the move. So when Green agreed to re-up with Golden State, it was on. So Lillard requests the trade, and then and then you get Wojnarowski, who hates the Heat, by the way. Wojnarowski hates the Heat, and if you want to know why, he's got no source in the Heat. Wojnarowski never breaks stories with the Heat. Never, ever. He has no sources with the Heat. He's been super hard on the Heat, going back to 2010 when they signed LeBron. Wojnarowski hates the Heat, has no sources from the Heat, and that's why he's one of the guys who continues to spout all the rhetoric coming from NBA general managers. He's holding water for the Portland Trail Blazers. This is not good enough. This is not good enough. They're going to look elsewhere than Miami. Wojnarowski hates the Heat. And then finally, I'm like, man, I wish Lillard would just tell Portland, I'm only willing to go to Miami. And then that's what you get. I think it was Shams Charania, who we've learned over this weekend is shady as hell. I'll get to him. But then you got the tweet from Charania. It's Miami. He only wants to go to Miami. So it is on. And then, we're all checking. We're refreshing our Twitter feeds every few minutes. It's so obnoxious. And I'm not even talking about the whole Elon Musk stuff that happened over the weekend. But we're refreshing our Twitter feeds, and it's obnoxious. So anyway, this is the scenario I've always feared. I've been pretty steadfast about, and all right, let me preface this with, I do believe the Heat are going to get Lillard. I do. But this is the scenario that I've been afraid of, which is Lillard asks for the trade, and then the Blazers are like, yeah, we're going to do what's best for us. You want what's best for you? That's nice. We're going to trade you. You want out, but we're going to do what's best for us. Which, I can't blame the Blazers if that's the tack that they're taking. It's what I would do. Portland owes Portland. They owe their team, their fan base, to get the best deal possible. What do they actually owe Damian Lillard? You know what they owe Damian Lillard? The money that they guaranteed him in the contract. That's what they owe. They owe him nothing else. Now, as Heat fans, we are counting on them doing the right thing, right? Which is send him to the exact destination he wants. And it's not like the Heat can't give them good stuff. The Heat can give them 3 first-round draft picks. If you want to include Jaquez, that would be 4 if you want to, spin it that way. Jovic, that could be 5 if you want to spin it that way. And don't talk to me like this rhetoric that's out there about Tyler Hero. You go look at Tyler Hero's contract. He's making $27 million. Fred VanVleet's getting over 40. Which guy would you rather have? It's a no-brainer. Tyler Hero's contract is good value now. It is. And he's awesome. I know he scrubbed his social media pages saying Miami Heat. I love Tyler Hero. And I'm going to be sad to see him go. I'm so bad with this kind of stuff. I never want to trade anyone. I'm too emotional. I get too attached to these players, especially when they're our guys, when we draft them. I don't want to trade anyone. I want to get the good players and lose none of the good players. But it's not because, I want to keep them because, like, it's going to make us really, really great. It's because I get too attached. I'm too emotional. I'd be the worst general manager. But they're going to lose Tyler Hero. But man, I'm so tired of hearing about how shitty Tyler Hero is. Get the hell out of here. You'd be so lucky to have him on your team. But this is the scenario that I'm afraid of, right? Where, why shouldn't the Blazers do what's right for them? The only thing they owe Damian Lillard is the contract they guaranteed him. And they've failed Damian Lillard. Hell, I could spin it the other way. Maybe Lillard failed them. They didn't win a championship. I could spin it that way. But this is a dangerous game. Because what if Portland's like, and I think there's a lot of posturing going on, but what's stopping Portland from saying, yeah, we're sending you over here because, man, they're offering us something great. Well, here's why that's probably not likely. Lillard has not made a mess of this situation, but he can. If they're about to agree to send him to Team X, he could then say, yeah, I'm not going to play for you. And then he could demand a trade out of there. And now that team gave up a bunch of assets to Portland, and they're not going to get Damian Lillard. So he can make a mess of it for the team that tries to trade for him that is not called the Miami Heat. There's that. There's also, it could be bad business for Portland not to do right by a player who's been tenured as long and as great and as iconic as Damian Lillard. Because whoever represents Damian Lillard, and I don't know who, I don't think it's Clutch, thank goodness. Whoever represents Damian Lillard can tell the Blazers, if you fuck our guy, I'm never going to send any of my clients to you ever again. You're bad business. You're not dealing in good faith. And that stuff is real in the NBA. The agents play such a huge role. So you got to be careful if you're Portland that you're seen as a team that does bad business. That could be really hurtful. And that's why ultimately Lillard is going to land here in Miami. Hopefully today. I don't know. I don't know when. I want to tell you guys, look, getting Lillard today would be so much fun. Getting Lillard any day this week would be so much fun. But you know what's also fun? Getting yourself a brand new car. And we're talking 4th of July tomorrow. All kinds of 4th of July deals and savings. And that's why when you're thinking about getting a new car, I send you to North Fort Lauderdale Subaru. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, if you're just thinking about getting a new ride, head on over to North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, conveniently located on North Andrews Avenue, just north of Cypress Creek Road. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru has the widest inventory of new Subaru models on the market. We're talking the Outback, the Crosstrek, the Forester, the Ascent, the WRX. If you're looking for a Subaru SUV, something spacious for the entire family, North Fort Lauderdale Subaru has the perfect model for you. Get sizzling summer savings at North Fort Lauderdale Subaru. New Subaru models starting at just $249 a month. Save up to $1,500 off MSRP on select new Subaru models in stock. Plus, receive up to $750 in trade-in assistance. Shop NFLSubaru.com. That's easy to remember. NFLSubaru.com. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, the building you know, and the place to go, NFLSubaru.com. So, I did a poll question yesterday. I did ZASLOW Show 2.0 poll question yesterday. Maybe it was Saturday. I don't remember. The days blend together a little bit sometimes. But I did a poll question yesterday, and I think it's closed now. ZASLOW Show 2.0. Yes, it is closed. ZASLOW Show 2.0 poll. You could always hit me up at ZASLOW Show, by the way. If you could only keep one in a potential trade for Lillard, you would keep, and I gave you 3 choices. Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Nikola Jovic. You could only keep one of them. Caleb Martin was the winner. The Heat fan wants to keep Caleb Martin as far as that triumvirate goes. 75% of you voted Caleb Martin, 14% Jaime Jaquez Jr., 11% Nikola Jovic. You're going to lose two of those three guys in this Lillard trade. Now, I want to keep Jaquez and Jovic, but here's the thing. I'm not holding up a trade for Damian Lillard for two guys who've never played for the team. I mean, I know Jovic has played a little bit, but like, come on. And Jaime Jaquez Jr. has never played for the Heat. Like, I can't get sentimental about guys who've done nothing for us. Literally nothing. The Caleb Martin thing is interesting because, yes, the Heat want to keep Caleb Martin. You've seen what he's capable of. He seems to be on the cusp of being a big player for us, right? Caleb Martin has 2 more years left on his deal at $8 million per, but it's really 1 more because it's a player option. So the Heat have him for 1 more year. And you kind of got to ask yourself if you're the Heat, right? You can't keep Caleb Martin out of the deal and not be willing to pay Caleb Martin in a year from now. If the Heat are willing to pay Caleb Martin, like you see what Max Strus just got, Caleb Martin's going to get that. If you're not willing, if you're keeping Caleb Martin out of the deal, that's because in a year from now, you are committing to pay Caleb Martin. If you're not willing to pay Caleb Martin what he's going to command in a year from now, you throw him in this trade and you keep the young guys. So if they hold back Martin, good. But that better mean that you're going to pay him in a year from now, because otherwise, what are we doing? I'd rather have the 2 younger guys if that's the case. So that's going to be important to see what happens there. If they hold Caleb Martin out of the deal, and I think they will, it better mean it's because they are going to pay him. They are willing to pay him. All right, let's go over some other NBA. There's so much to go over here. Every Monday, we recap the NBA from the weekend courtesy of Brunt Insurance. That's right. Brunt Insurance brings us all the NBA news today. BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204. Wherever you are in Florida, from Pensacola to the Keys and beyond. Brunt Insurance, they are delivering comprehensive insurance and financial solutions tailored exactly to your needs. My homeowner's insurance, it's up this summer, but I don't have to worry because I know I'm renewing it through Brunt Insurance and I'm getting the best deal out there, the most comprehensive coverage at the most affordable rates around. I've been getting my homeowner's insurance through Brunt Insurance for about 10 years now, and I don't have to lie awake at night wondering what happens. God forbid there's something that happens. How am I going to pay for it? I'm covered, and that's courtesy of Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance. BruntInsurance.com, not just homeowners insurance. You need automobile, motorcycle, boaters. Maybe you don't own your home. Renter's insurance. You need condo insurance. Top 5 insurance agency in the country. They were recently rated #1 in the state of Florida. And I love you guys. So that's why I want this process to be made easy for you. And I send you to Brunt Insurance. BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204. So let's go over some deals here. The big one over the weekend, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving gets the deal from Dallas. And that was after throughout the day on Friday, Kyrie Irving's got a bunch of meetings scheduled. Miami being listed as one. Completely fake news. There is no way the Heat ever had anything scheduled with Kyrie Irving. This is all part of the Kyrie grift. He's making up a market to try and get what he wants from Dallas. There was no market from Kyrie. I told you there would not be a single other team that meets with him, and I told you there would not be a single other team that offers him a multi-year deal. So, of course, Dallas, they bid against themselves. And they fell for it. They fell for the Kyrie grift. Now, either they fell for the Kyrie grift, where he lied about all these other meetings that are going to take place, or Dallas, we know Dallas wanted him back, and they're just like, F it. If we don't give him a lot of money, I mean, he's going to make a mess of it, which he's going to do anyway. So 3 years, $126 million. Great deal for Kyrie. He wanted the max. He wanted 5 years. But there's not a single other team that wanted to give him a multi-year deal. So Kyrie Irving gets 3 years, $126 million. There is no way that this season goes without him asking out. He's taking the money that he can't get anywhere else, and he's going to then force his way out in 6 months from now, 7 months from now. The question is, who asks out first, Kyrie Irving or Luka Doncic? That's the question. There is no way Kyrie finishes the year in Dallas. No way. So good for him. And who was it out there? That dopey from CBS Sports, right? That dopey Bill Reiter? That guy sucks. That dopey Bill Reiter who tweets out all these teams that Kyrie Irving has meetings with, including the Miami Heat. That guy doesn't know shit. So Kyrie Irving gets 3 years, $126 million. Look, the grift worked. The grifter. The Houston Rockets, they get Fred VanVleet, 3 years, $125. Dylan Brooks to Houston as well, 4 years, $80. So Dylan Brooks, his value was not hurt at all because of what happened in Memphis. 4 years, $80. I mean, that's best case scenario, right? I like the Dylan Brooks signing. I would have wanted Dylan Brooks on the Heat. There was no way for it to happen. But I would take a guy like Dylan Brooks on my team. Fred VanVleet, I don't like the signing. I don't think VanVleet's that good. I don't think he's a very good player. He's above average. I think that's an awful contract they gave VanVleet. And I don't understand what Houston is doing. Because when you're paying those guys, and those are good culture guys, Houston needs a turnaround. Ime Udoka. But here's the thing. When you're paying those two guys that money, they're obviously going to start, right? Well, they also have young Jalen Green. They also have Kevin Porter Jr. These are all the young guys. They also have Jabari Smith Jr. They also have Amen Thompson. Not all those guys are going to be able to start because we're starting Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks over them. So, why would you take away minutes from the young guys for these guys? These guys aren't going to come off the bench. You can get the culture guys. You can get the veteran leadership at a lot less than $125 million and $80 million. I feel like they're going to stunt the growth of these young guys. I don't understand what Houston's doing. So I don't like it for Houston. LaMelo Ball re-ups for 5 years, $260 million. Holy crap. Austin Rivers and D'Angelo Russell go back to the Lakers. Austin Rivers, remember it was rumored someone was going to offer him $100 million? He got 4 years, $56 million to return to Los Angeles. The Lakers, even though they signed Gabe Vincent, also bring back D'Angelo Russell, 2 years, $37 million. Chris Middleton, you knew by opting out, Middleton was going to remain in Milwaukee. If he wanted to go somewhere else, you end up doing what Harden did, where you opt into the final year and then you get traded. Middleton opted out of the $40 million. He returns for 3 years, $102. And then the timing here is important. They were probably on the verge of losing Brook Lopez. And then the Lillard stuff broke. And the Bucks are probably like, shit, the Heat are about to get Lillard. We need to make sure we also bring back Brook Lopez. Lopez then goes back to Milwaukee, 2 years, $48 million. They are in win now mode. And I think that was a direct result of the Lillard stuff. I do. Desmond Bane gets a 5-year extension with Memphis for $207 million. It's unbelievable. And then Tyrese Halliburton, who's really good. Tyrese Halliburton has played in 0 playoff games. 5 years, $260 million. He's played in 0 playoff games. It's crazy. NFL player. I mean, it must drive NFL players batshit. It really must. And I do wonder about Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant gets 5 years. Was it $260 that Jeremy Grant got? I have it written down as $260 million. Was it $260 he got or did he get $160? Jeremy Grant re-signs with Portland. Let me see here. Yeah, $160. That's a big difference from $260. I wonder if they still would have given him 5 years, $160 million if they knew that Lillard was going to request out. Because here's the thing. They're in full-on rebuild mode now. And I don't think the way to rebuild is by giving Jeremy Grant $32.5 million a year. I don't think that's how you rebuild. So I hate that deal for Portland. And those are the big deals that we saw. What we also saw over the weekend, so many of these big time reporters now, Wojnarowski for sure, they're mouthpieces for some of these general managers. Like, they're just so on the take. And I feel like Shams Charania, I feel like he's super shady. I do. You know, Shams Charania is clearly a mouthpiece for Rich Paul. And, you know, CEO of Clutch Sports, Rich Paul, and so-and-so agree to a deal. When did we start doing that? He's a mouthpiece for Rich Paul. And he's not shy about it. And that seems super shady. Then you also have the FanDuel thing with Charania. One of the sponsors of the network Charania works for, major sponsor is FanDuel. And remember with the draft, what was it, last week, 2 weeks ago, where Brandon Miller was always going to be the number 2 pick. And then all of a sudden, Charania started reporting Scoot Henderson's going to be the guy. And the betting odds shifted in a major way. But they still ended up going with Brandon Miller at number 2 like it was always going to be. A lot of money shifts. FanDuel benefits a lot financially from all those last-minute bets that may have then went to Scoot Henderson because of Shams Charania's report, who works at a company who receives money from FanDuel. That's shady. That's very shady. And then how about this? So yesterday, Miles Bridges signed the restricted tender to return to the Charlotte Hornets. Miles Bridges still has 10 more games to serve from a suspension, a 30-game suspension, which started last year, where he missed the entire season because he beat up his children's mother in front of them. All-time scumbag. Shams Charania reports he signed the tender. Of course, Miles Bridges and founder and CEO of Clutch Sports, Rich Paul, have agreed to sign the tender with the Charlotte Hornets. And Shams Charania also mentions how this will make him an unrestricted free agent next year and one of the top free agents on the market. No mention of why Miles Bridges, who would be one of the top free agents on the market apparently next year, had to sign a $7.5 million restricted tender instead of getting a multi-year deal from the Hornets and instead of getting any multi-year offers from someone else as a free agent right now. Makes no mention of it. That's shady as fuck. Like, that's, like, you're on the take for Rich Paul, and you're not mentioning that he beat up the mother of his children in front of his children, and that's why he didn't get a multi-year deal right now, even though he's going to be a top free agent on the market next year. Charania deleted the tweet. Because that's shady. And you're just so blatantly holding water for Rich Paul. That's a bad look. And you delete the tweet. So, I told you leading up to it, though, you got to be careful what you're reading out there. You got to be careful who you're believing. Some of these guys are shady. Some of them don't know anything, and they're hoping it sticks, and they're hoping to get some attention. And that's how NBA free agency goes. Again, our NBA weekend update brought to us by Brunt Insurance. BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204.